So we'll jump right into this. I will just start sharing my screen here. I just want to get you accustomed to the Red Seal exam and where we're going to get our information from, and introduce ourselves to it anyways. So again, sorry, my name's Andrew. You can call me Andy if you like. My friends call me Andy. So I'm just going to share my screen here with you. And it is going to be, sorry about that. Okay, so this is the website where we're going to be taking the majority of our information from, our overarching information anyways. So that's redseal.ca. And then we're going to go to trades, and we're going to go to Red Seal Trades. This website's a little bit slow. We're going to go to Carpentry, because that's where we are. This is sort of the Carpentry homepage for the Red Seal examination. So how they develop it and all the good stuff that goes along with the trade. So the main thing we want to go to is exam counseling sheet. And this is how they break it up. And who is they? The they is the NOA, or the National Occupational Analysis. So it's a group of people, industry experts, people that put this together, and they divide up what they think would be the most competent carpenter or tradesperson, and all these major activities and thought processes that they need. So common occupational skills, planning and layout, concrete, or you could say heavy construction or commercial construction, framing, small buildings or light construction, exterior finish, interior finish, and renovations. So here's Carpentry. Welcome to Carpentry. It's very broad, left to right and up and down. It's very general. So there's a lot of variation, from woodworking to building sky rises, high rises. So it's very, very broad. So your knowledge base, they really ask a lot of you as far as knowing a lot of amount of information. So what we'll do is we'll just click on that NOA, that National Occupational Analysis. This website's pretty slow. I guess lots of people want to take their Red Seal, which is good. So here we have it kind of broken down on the website a little bit further, but I've got it here on some PDFs, so it's a little bit more clear. So let me just get it. Oh, let me show you this first here. This is their pie chart. So this is, they've broken up that last, or 2 pages back, they've broken up all those categories, the common occupational, planning, concrete, framing. They've broken it up, and they tell you how many questions are going to be on the Red Seal on that part. So as carpenters, sometimes we work in a sector, like we work maybe in heavy construction or commercial construction, building high rises, for the better part of our careers, 3/4 of our careers, and we just don't get to doing interior finishing very often. Those just sometimes don't relate. So that's welcome to Carpentry once again. They want you to know it all, at least decently, so that you can pass, and you're going to need to. So this is broken up, the percentages. This is a national percentage, so it's an average of all the provinces across Canada. So the provinces have their own weighting, which I'm going to get into in a second here, but this is the weighting of the national. So now I'm going to show you, I could not find online a BC pie chart, so I created my own, and I'm just going to share you. I have to stop here for a sec and share you a different screen. So hold on, there's my face again, sorry. Here we go. So this is the BC breakdown. So I know that went pretty quick and fast, but the weightings are different. And that's fair enough, because different provinces have different weather and different climatic issues and seismic issues too. So and cultural too, and building styles as well. So it's different. It's weighted differently. We have our occupational skills, our planning layout, our concrete, our framing, our exterior and interior finish, and our renovations. So the test is going to have 100 questions on it. So if it's percent, that means per 100. So that means you're going to have 20 questions on B, which is orange. If you look, that's planning and layout. 20 questions on concrete, and 20 questions on exterior finish. And I know we jumped from the national one, but those numbers were quite a bit different. I believe they're all in the 14 to 17 range. Nothing touches 20. So if you're in BC, kind of lucky for you because we've got heavily weighted things or categories on a few of them. So if you're in one of those industries, great. So then you're weighted heavy, which is great. And if not, then well, you know what to study, that's for sure. So let's see here. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to pivot over to an e-booklet. Oh, any questions so far, or is everything sounding okay?
Yeah, it's all good. I was just I wanted to ask a question on behalf of internationally trained Red Seal or Red Seal aspirants.
Sure.
So let's say we have an immigrant from, let's say, Philippines, and they have more than 5,000 hours of experience in another country, but not in BC specifically. So will
Yeah.
this Red Seal exam prep be able to kind of like allow us to understand like BC standards, or just not just BC standards, but national standards for in order to pass the exam?
Yeah, for sure. I would say both. You're like trades people gain experience, whether it's in another country or not. You're still gaining experience. You know, a hammer is a hammer, and experience is experience, right? I like to think of it like that. There's that same basic experience and that trade knowledge that you're going to get. Now, when you come here to Canada, this is a great course to take because it's going to get you updated to Canadian terminology, Canadian standards, um, nationally and provincially, specifically BC, this one, because that's where we're living here. But yes, absolutely, it's going to get you freshened up. And if you've got 10 to 20 years experience, then that's fantastic. Bring that to the table and then add this course to it, and you should be going good. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
great. Okay, so now I'm just going to pivot to an e-booklet here called it's fairly basic, but it's a great place to start, other than just that pie chart and the weightings that I've talked about. But we'll get back into that a little bit later. But this one's called Get Ready for Your Red Seal Exam. So it's a really nice place to start an ebook that you can get it on that redseal.ca, or I can send it out to you too if you have trouble with that. I'm just going to cherry pick some points. I won't spend too much time on it because it's mostly for students to probably just read and to go through that themselves. But there are some nice points in here. Yeah, I guess if you're tuning in or watching this, it will help you know what to do, where to start, if you're looking to get your red seal in different scenarios, whether you're an apprentice or you've just moved here from another place. So determining your eligibility, are you an apprentice, a qualifier, a challenger, journey person? Your language, if you need some special needs like that, your fees, planning. It's really great to touch base on these kinds of things for just to start. We haven't even gone over all the information, but just to get your mind wrapped around this stuff, it's really good. Nice little booklet. Then if we go a little bit further here, this is how the NOA is dividing up the information. So remember that NOA is the National Occupation Analysis Group. So they're dividing things up into blocks here, and they're dividing them up further into tasks, and then they're dividing them up even further into subtasks so that we can really zero in on the things we need to know and the things we should be able to be competent as carpenters in our trade. So that's how they're going to divvy that up. It's nice to know that, and it will be nice to know as we move forward here in this meeting as well. So what it also does, the NOA, they do some other things too, some supplementary things. They'll talk about trade activities and some trends, some recent trends, like some green technology and different types of insulation and forming systems and that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. Essential skills that we are going to need: safety measures, technical terms, glossary, tools and equipment, and some acronyms. So these are all really important things that we want to take a look at and, you know, go nice and steady, be able to digest that. And over this amount of weeks, really take that in, absorb it in. But we'll get into that a little further once we get out of this booklet. I'm just going to keep scrolling down here in this booklet. Yeah, so this is the way they're going to visually represent it. It's kind of blocky. We'll get a better picture of it later in the next booklet. Here's the pie chart, the breakdown on the national scale. So actually I can just, if you notice, A is 14, B is 18, and C is 15. And you can apply those to those. If we go back to my original chart, it's actually quite a bit different. There we go. So I'm going to go back to that. So by chance, this happens to be on this booklet, the Carpentry pie chart for the national scale. So that's useful. Oh, we got a visitor here. Someone tuning in. That's good. So this is the national chart. And yes, we'll move on because we'll use my our British Columbia pie chart for that. And let's just see here. Right, then further, what's going to be useful in this booklet is creating a checklist and reviewing some terminology as well. Some of that supplementary stuff that we were talking about as well. So here is the block tasks and subtasks shown in a visual manner. So it's kind of hard to think of it just linearly, but when you see it shown in a visual way, you can see how the block is framing the main subject. We're talking about wood frame construction, and then we're going to get a little bit more refined. We're going to talk, okay, we're going to just talk about wood frame construction. Specifically, we're going to talk about floor systems. Specifically, we'll talk about deck systems, specifically wall systems, and so on. And then if you were in the floor system category, we're going to talk about using engineered floor systems and then using regular wood or dimensional lumber style floor systems. So you can see how that's how they're breaking down framing into the location and component. And then once you get that, you're going to get into some more specialized aspects of that. Okay, some sample questions. That is useful for sure, but they don't change them too often on this website. So it's just going to be 20 questions that you either can or can't do, but that's fine. We'll be able to for sure do them at the end of the course, and many more. This is the style of the test. So it's going to be all multiple choice. These would, this is for an electrician, but this is the style of kind of sentences and question and answer that's going to be all in multiple choice. And if there is math, then it will also be multiple choice as well. I would recommend you have a piece of scrap paper that you're able to write down all your math on, and then you pick the answer that's closest to your answer. Hopefully it's exact on math. Okay. There's some problem-solving questions here. These are related to millwrights or pipe fitters or something like that. Oh, an important one for carpentry to remember too is being able to work with imperial and metric systems. So welcome to Canada and being a carpenter. You have to know both the systems. So most of the world is using, metric systems, but America, our next door neighbor, is using imperial. And I think there's benefits, pros and cons of both systems, that's for sure. But Canadians are one of the few that will have to use both. So we can use both systems, which is actually really nice. So we'll get used to converting because the test is going to throw both at you. So being able to convert and work with either one is very useful. Language training. Yeah, if you need to book that in a different language, you'll talk to an exam prep agent. Also, they just briefly talk about some soft skills that could be related to Red Seal, or maybe just something that we should have in the trade or in the working area, or for life, really. So our reading, our writing, our document use, our numeracy, like arithmetic for construction, computer use. Computers aren't going anywhere. They're just becoming more abundant. Thinking ability, of course, oral communication, working with others. Some of these are pretty common sense, working with people shoulder to shoulder on the job site. But some of this is, I would really focus on document use and numeracy, especially with regards to Red Seal. And also it's going to touch on dealing with stress and exam anxiety, which is totally a factor. You know, some people are just fantastic tradespeople, but on exams, they just, you know, you just have anxiety. So, you know, just plan yourself, you know, plan your time, you know, take a deep breath, go slow, and budget your time in a way that on the test that's going to be able to do that very efficiently. If you don't know something, just leave it, take a deep breath, move on to all the ones you do know, because you're going to be experienced. If you're going into your Red Seal, you've got at least a decent amount of experience. So rely on that experience, answer what you know first, and then go back to those ones you're a little iffy on. And remember, it's multiple choice, so you can you can guide yourself to the right one, slow and steady. Okay. One at a time. Yeah, so really good booklet. I would really have a good look at this one. Study strategies. Okay. We'll be touching on all this out throughout the course as well, but some strategies you want to tackle. Ask your employer or coworker for help if you think that somebody has you know, something that you could attach yourself to information wise. They think they're pretty good in that field, then, you know, ask them, go ahead. Take an exam prep course like this one. This is a great way to do it. Make sure you know your code book. Make sure you have a code book, because that's a big part of it. We'll get into that later. This is a good one too. Try teaching somebody else subject matter. If you can teach somebody else, you know it pretty well. And if you can't, well, then you're going to find out pretty quick. That's for sure. And then moving on, kind of like a little bit of a schedule here. There's two different ways about it. Sort of a Monday to Sunday schedule about regarding studying, really. So I would definitely think that you would want to spend a good amount of time, especially in the last week of study leading up to your exams. You know, everyone's going to be different. Everyone's going to be different level of experience and knowledge and comfortability towards taking this test. So I can't tell you exactly how many hours a week that you should be spending on homework, but this sort of guide is roughly around 10 hours a week. I would certainly be spending that much in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the course leading up to your Red Seal, because you really want to get all as much information as you possibly can in. But maybe in the first few, you know, life does take over. So you want to put some homework time in, but I don't know if it can be 10 every single week. But so anyways, kind of a nice way to plan that. Just a reminder for that. And then another way to do it would be content-based. So as you can see, this one's based on perhaps an automotive technician down here. So content to cover. He writes down, or the person writes down, hey, you know, I'm weak in this category. I know I'm weak. I don't really deal with this stuff all the time. So that's what I'm going to study the most. So he's going to commit to 2 hours of study on that particular subject, because he or she knows, boy, oh boy, I'm really weak in that area. And then maybe another area, well, I'm average at that one, so I'm just going to spend 45 minutes to an hour on that. So, and that's something we'll deal with when we go together on this course. We're going to, you know, kind of introduce ourselves and figure out our backgrounds. You know, if somebody's going to work, well, I work in light frame construction, wood frame. Oh, I work interior finishing and renovations. Oh, well, I work in sky rises and heavy construction. So that they're very different fields, but we kind of need to package it all together and know a bit of it all. So once I know where your gaps are and each other's, then we can kind of help each other and then focus in on those areas and the areas where they're going to give us the most bang for our buck on the test as well too. So that that low hanging fruit, where we want to grab it quick in the high 20% amounts of the entire test and so on. We're just about done on this e-booklet. What to bring. This is all good stuff. I'm just going to breeze past this. Okay, what to expect. You know, don't bring anything in there. You're going to be given a calculator. You're going to be given a code book. You can't bring your own in because you can have some stuff loaded on that, or you could be taking pictures on there that do not want that. So just be prepared for that. And we'll get into that a little bit later. The passing mark is 70%, so you got to hit that. Make sure you follow that, otherwise they're going to take your test away. Okay, also it's a Scantron style. It's multiple choice, so you're going to be filling it out like this. They don't want to take this with a grain of salt, this sentence. They don't want to trick you, but there are distractor questions. So kind of they are trying to trick you in another way. As another way of saying that. So just be careful. There are distractor questions that seem correct, because which trade is a red seal designated trade? Well, they're all trades, but so if you didn't read that slow enough, or you didn't let it digest in your brain, you might just pick, well, one's a trade and move on, even though you're kind of right, it's not a red seal. So anyways, something like that we want to keep in mind. Scantron style. And then of course, what are you going to do if you pass? What are you going to do if you don't pass? It's possible, so we want to be prepared for that mentally. Yeah, so really nice booklet that gives you a nice introduction to NOA, the National Occupational Analysis, and just put your nerves at ease, and flip to this book whenever you're not quite sure what's going to happen. Now I will. Any questions on that? I know we had a couple join here in the meantime, but if you want to throw a question out, you can anytime, or just message whatever you want, or just hang in for the ride. No problem.
We just wanted to take advantage of this to make a little announcement to the demo class participants. My name is Rika. I'm with the Ashton College marketing team, and I'm here to give you mic access. So you don't, for our attendees, you don't have mic access by default, but I can give you that superpower. So just message me in the chat box, and we'll get right into it. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, so maybe we missed the first few minutes, so I'll briefly touch on this pie chart. That this is the British Columbia breakdown for the Red Seal exam. So British Columbia, this is how they weight the exam. It's out of 100 questions. So again, we're going to be on the planning and layout. It's going to be 20 questions on planning and layout, 20 questions on concrete, 15 questions on framing, 20 questions on exterior finish, 15 on interior, and 5 questions on renovations. So just so you're caught up to speed there. Now, here's the big scary booklet, the NOA, the actual NOA. So this is how they are creating or generating their Red Seal exams out of this. This is what carpenters are tested on and what they should be confident on in general, because this is national, remember. So there's some differences between the provinces, which may be changing in the next few years, but for now, don't think about that. So we'll just we'll just jump right into this then. So just hang on 1 second here. Right. All right, it's a big booklet, so just bear with me here. So following objectives, we want to describe the tasks performed, we want to develop instruments for use and preparation, facilitate the mobility, supply employers. So this is what they want to do. This is their job. Here's the people that created it. I'm just going to have to skip along here. Okay, so basically table of contents. We're into it now. So that pie chart, you're able to see this pie chart again, right? You're seeing that? Give me a thumbs up, Rika. Yeah, okay, good, sorry. So that pie chart relates to that block A relates to that block or that chunk in the pie chart there. So now we know what we're looking at overall with the pie chart. Now we're zooming in and we're going to talk about specifics that we really need to know. And then they get even more specific too. So task 1, use and maintain tools and equipment, safety related activities, building materials, builds and uses temporary access structures. So very general language here, because we are zooming into a couple different things here, but there's going to be even more specifics as well. Let's look at block B, because if we check out this pie chart here, block B, that orange one, is 20% of your entire red seal. So there's 20 questions regarding the block B here. So if we want to have a look at that, we have interpreting documentation, organize our work, perform layout, construct form work, install concrete, cement. Oh, sorry, I jumped the gun there. That's for C for concrete. So B for planning and layout will have interpret documentation, organize our work, and perform layout. Okay, so just lock that into our minds for a second. Just jump to that pie chart. That's the 20%. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to jump all the way down, and we're going to open up that task 5, 6, and 7, and we're going to see what's inside of those, because those are pretty general statements. So just bear with me. It's quite a large booklet here. There's all this carpentry information. Hello there. So we were going to go down to B. Block B, planning and layout. So now we're really going to get into the meat of just block B. Okay, so they talk to you about trends, which is a neat bit of information, but we'll just carry on. Carpenters must locate information in various documents and understand the relationship between them in order to form a plan of construction. Okay, so this is required knowledge. So they're expecting that you're able to handle or look at these main aspects. So we don't have time to get into read every single one, but here it is. Now, here's what we're getting into, subtask. And remember those general statements, when we went back up at the top, they said interpret drawings. Okay, so what do they mean? Okay, well, here we go. Use drafting instruments such as protractors, scale rulers to determine measurements from project drawings. So basically be able to scale. Locate information such as details, elevation, sections, door and window schedules, and other locations for layout. So locate the information where? In a set of plans. So, you know, if you've been working on the job site, you're going to be working with a set of plans. There's just no way around that. So it's likely you're going to have some of or many of these experiences already just through trade experience, but it's nice to know what you're up against, that's for sure. Relay drawings and informations, recognize conflicts, priority, visualize two-dimensional information, identify grid lines, so on and so forth. So here's how they're breaking down interprets project drawings. That's how they're breaking that down into these different categories: B101, B102, 3 and 4 and 5, so on. So here's the next one: interprets specs, identify products and materials and installation procedures, determine when acceptable alternatives can be used, and then cross-reference documents. And here's a good one that we really want to watch for: code books, contract specs, and manufacturer specs. So 3 main components of interpret specs. And then the last one was interpret the safety documentation. There was 2 actually. So interpret safety docs and interpret workplace docs. So similar, but one's related to safety. And then that should be, no, there's a little bit more here because we're still in B. So if we go up here, that's B5. Then we're going to go to B6. I know it's a little bit dry, but it's one by one so we can digest this. Schedule work sequence, perform site preparation. And I really would suggest that if you're going to take this course, you should be getting this e-booklet, the Get Ready e-booklet, and the Carpenter NOA booklet, which is what we're in right now. And I would just start skimming this for starters, just to start thinking like, do I know anything about this or do I not? And then maybe start putting, a check mark beside something that you know, or an X, maybe something that you're weak on or you haven't been, you're not familiar with. So B6. Quantity takeoffs. So remember, we're in the planning and layout section. Calculations, so basically estimations. Organize material. Arrange your material for efficiency and productivity. Protect it, store and handle it, place. A lot of it's common sense, but some of it we should be following what their procedure is. And then perform layout. That's a lot of half of a carpenter's job. Layout, which means to, make marks for where components go, right? We know that that's a big part of our jobs. And it's one of those ones that whether you work in heavy construction, light construction, or finishing or renovations, it's one of the ones that kind of link us all together because we all have measuring tools, we all have marking tools, and we're all laying things out. So, and you'll see that here as we just jump into this one. And this is the most important one, and I'll show you why in a second. So here's these overarching important things that you should know: basic geometry, basic survey, layout tools, so on and so forth. Now, to bite into them, key competencies: site layout. So layout on a large site. So in preparation, maybe building a foundation or for excavation or demolition, that kind of stuff. Also for setbacks, that different kind of things like that. Then we've got layout in concrete formwork. So we've got concrete construction, heavy construction. Then we have layout of floor systems. They're talking about built-up beams. We're talking about wood frame construction here. So we're going from large-scale sites. We're going to concrete. We're going to wood frame floors. We're going to deck systems. We're going to wall systems. We're going to ceiling systems, roof systems, and stairs. And that is the end of that section. So it's a lot. It's a lot. But if you can imagine just spending a few hours on that and then feeling good, like, I think I can handle a good chunk of this, then you should be competent for around 20 questions on your red seal, and you only need 70. So, you're 1/3, 1/4 of the way there already if you can tackle this. So it's doable, it's manageable. And let's just break that down a little further. There's a lot of information here, so just bear with me. But this is the B. Just to flip to the pie chart for a second, this is the B, the planning and the layout. So planning and layout section. This is the end of it. But it breaks it down further, so just bear with me. I'm going to jump down here to page, what was it? I think it was 89 or something here. So just hang on. We're going to jump down to 89, and then they're going to tell us how they break this down further. Okay, here we go. Appendix D. So just information to explain how are they weighting this and why. So common occupational, no, we want B because we just talked about layout. So block B, planning and layout. Okay, so across Canada, we weight that 18%, nationally average. So there would be 18 questions on the Red Seal exam. But we're not national, we're BC. So BC, there's actually 20 questions on there. So that's how I took that information, plugged that all in, and created this chart out of that. So BC version of that. So that's how we are able to check all this information out. This is our first step. What is going to be on the test and how much is it going to be weighted? That's what we really need to know for starters, right? And then once we know that, then we can start. It's all about budgeting our learning time and our memory time to see how much we can get in there for the test. I see we got some new ones. Is there, I don't know if you have your mics maybe disabled. If you have any questions, you can send a message or whatever you want. If not, we'll just hang on for the ride.
Yeah, just to quickly, for the latecomers, I see we have a few latecomers here. I just wanted to make sure that the person here, my name is Rika. I'm with the Ashton College marketing team. And if you need mic access, let me know because I'm muting you all by default to reduce feedback. Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, now what I would like to do, since we are at the bottom. This is the other pie chart. They repeat the same things, but this is a visual representation of the block tasks and subtasks without having to jump around so much. So they're sort of showing you, let's go to B because we just did that. Planning and layout, interpret documentation, and then we're getting into, see, subtasks here, right here. So we're going to jump down. Okay, so what makes up interprets documentation? Interpret the drawings, interpret the specs, interpret the safety docs, interpret the workplace docs. Okay, and then what makes up organized work? Okay, it's schedule the work, sequence, perform site prep, perform takeoffs or estimate, and organize the stuff that's on the site, basically. So it's kind of a visual way to look at that, so that's helpful as well. And now, since we're just down at the bottom, I'm going to show you a little bit of the supplementary information here, these appendixes or appendices, and that is coming up here. Appendix A, tools and equipment. So hand tools, a big list for you to go over of everything that you probably should at least be familiar with entering to this test. So all these tools that carpenters are going to use for different aspects of different trades, we need to know all these. So I would be definitely going through this yourself and marking, uh-oh, I don't know this one. Yes, 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 I know. And then just letting me know or looking it up. Okay, now we've got portable power tools. So these were the hand tools, everything that we usually use. Not exhaustive, but it's quite extensive. Power tools, everything we might be using for just a variety of jobs, or carpentry is just so broad. And then stationary power tools, so for carpentry, people that are in shops. So stationary, you can't move these tools, they're heavy. Pneumatic tools and equipment. Yeah, we're all using nail guns nowadays, so you're probably familiar with that, but and some of it is common sense. Here's something that it can give you pause, because rigging, hoisting, and access equipment, it's something that we maybe don't use all the time. Aerial work platforms, block and tackle, pinch bars, spreader bars, synthetic lifting straps. This is something that, you know, there may be one person designated on the job site to do this job, and it may not be us. So here's an area where we really want to focus on, because it's something that not many of us are going to deal with in a daily basis, kind of thing. Same with layout instruments too. I mean, a lot of these, of course, we're used to, but perhaps not using theodolites, total stations, transit. So these, again, carpentry, we put our carpenter's hat on, we put our surveyor's hat on. We have so many different hats that we need to be ready to change gears with. So there's quite a bit of surveying in carpentry as well. We aren't surveyors, but we know their equipment and we know how to use it at a basic level. PPE, you're going to know this for sure if you're going to be challenging your red seal. So all these different kinds of PPE, you're going to have, you know, you got to have PPE on the job site. Protective equipment for sure, steel toes, glasses, high vis vests, harnesses for heights, all that good stuff. It's common sense, but we will definitely go over some modules on refreshment and some specifications, that's for sure. Okay. Then we have a glossary here as well. So we have all these different types of tool and equipment, and now we're getting into a glossary where we have different terms and terminology that we really want to be able to feel comfortable answering quickly. So I would suggest there's a ton here. This is industry jargon, but go through that. Make sure you know what all these things are. It'll definitely help you, because they're just going to throw these words out at you on the red seal. So you just want to be familiar with it now, not then. Okay, and this is again not exhaustive, but it's pretty decent. And then finally, the last of the supplementary, it is the acronyms. So again, they could throw you some acronyms. So, HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. That's pretty easy. Most of us know that. CSA, Canadian Standards, that's on our steel-toed boots. There's a little green triangle on the side that'll say CSA in there to make sure it's up to certain standards. ICF, insulated concrete forms, they're definitely going to throw that at you for sure. That's semi-new green style of concrete formwork. So either you've used it or not. So you might not be comfortable with that or familiar with it. MSDS, safety data sheets, NBC or BCBC, which we're going to probably jump to in a minute here. National Building Code or the British Columbia version, the BCBC. Yeah, being familiar with all these terms, all these tools, and these acronyms, and then together using, if I could just jump back to, sorry to jump around so much. This is just a big document. Block B, just to go together and go down piece by piece and reading, hey, what am I weak in? What am I not weak in? And so on and so forth. And this is just the block B, the planning and layout. What I'll do is I will just jump to block C, which is nice because it's C for concrete. There we go. So C for concrete. I'm not going to spend too much time in here. We're going to pivot out into a module that I've got. And also we're going to talk about BCBC, so British Columbia Building Code. So that's kind of your introduction. This is how the red seal is created. This is how it's weighted. And obviously you see how much time we need to spend reviewing it and seeing where we're weak or where we're strong, and then know what is weighted for what. And then once we know we're weak on something, or we know that there's a lot of weight on something for the test, then we really need to study it. So if we just pop into, we're into concrete here. Excuse me. So we're just going to jump down into concrete here. Erects, excavation, shoring, and underpinning. Let's see here. Concrete false work. Construct footing forms. This is what I was looking for. So footing forms. So when the excavator comes in, digs the hole, we got to put some forms in there to create strip footings so that the house can bear on the soil. Let's see here. Place formwork, plumb and level, build footings according to drawings. Okay, so this is going to relate directly. I'm going to flip over to a module now. So because I also at another college I'm involved in the Carpentry apprenticeship program. So as we grow from level 1, 2, 3, and 4, we have our modules that we are gathering information out of, and then we answer they're called self-tests at the end. And the self-tests are really going to be similar to what you may have on the Red Seal exam. So I'm just going to pop over to one now, and it would be dealing with directly constructing footing forms. So this is the concrete module. So here's the contents of this. Describe concrete formwork and false work, describe the formwork material and the hardware, and describe concrete joints. So this is just a level 1 module, so it's pretty basic, but if you are not in the concrete field or the heavy construction field, it's a great place to start, that's for sure. So I'm just going to jump down here. This is sort of like what a level 1 apprentice would be getting the basics of, for sure. Shop practices, personal practices, drawing and specs, so on and so forth. Okay, let's just get to it. Select concrete forming systems. Okay, describe the formwork, describe the joints. Okay, I said that. Okay, construct footing forms. So we're going to talk about what we want to do, how we want to build them. A lot of this, you're in the industry, you know you need to build footings level, and you know you need to build them straight and square. You're way ahead of this. This is for level 1 apprentices. But at the same time, there's a lot of terminology in here, and maybe some specifics that you're like, oh shoot, I didn't realize that they called it that or this. And then that's what we really want to know, because we want to make sure we're speaking the same language as the Red Seal test creators. So I'm just going to move along. So different types of footing forms: trenched, partially formed, fully formed, strip footings, ladders. I'm going to go pretty fast here, so we don't have a ton of time. Wall footings, keyways, step footings. This is an important one because I'm going to use this one to jump out of this into BC. But step footings, so this is where if the ground is not level, there's a jog in it or a step down. That would be a stepped footing. So there's some minimums and some maximums in this next page here. So this is just focusing on this because this will help us jump into the next part. So hang on. The maximum vertical step, sorry, let me highlight that a little bit better. The maximum vertical step and minimum horizontal distance to the next step is 600 millimeters BC building code, figure 6. Okay, so now they give you inches. Oh, inches and millimeters, right? So we're going to get comfortable converting back and forth because that's welcome to Canada in construction. They do it to you all the time. So you're going to have, what they're saying is you can only jog it so far down and so far over in one shot. Otherwise, you're going to have a weak spot there on the foundation. And logically, we've been in the trade so long, we kind of get that and we know that. But do we know it to the code rule down to the millimeter? Maybe not. So we should be able to look that up. Keep that in the back of your mind, and let's keep moving forward until we get to the self-test at the end, and it tests our knowledge, and then we'll for sure spend some time looking at the building code. Okay, keep that in the back of your mind. Now, here we have these step footings, how they're actually being built with wood forms, and some rebar, some dowels sticking up, mushroom caps, another terminology we want to have. So that's we have those so that we don't stab ourselves if we fall down on the construction site. Again, you probably know this. You're working in the field. You know what these things are. You know what these pictures are. But it's a really good review. I'm going to just different kinds of wall forms, terminology, the whalers, the studs, the plywood. You know this, but it's good refresher. Ties. Here we have an end view or a section view of some formwork and the way the tie is being held together and the direction of the concrete, the liquid concrete pressure. Built-in place forms. Here's some stuff that, you know, we don't really talk about on the job site all the time, like the form system, the single whaler, double whaler, quick strip, strap ties. Like here's just a snapshot of a few. And then now they kind of grade them. Is this one fast? Is this one slow? Is this one high quality? Is this one sort of eh? So, you know, we're working and we know kind of through experience, but we don't maybe talk about them all in one shot like this. And that's the benefit of these books and these modules. Single whaler system. Got some decent pictures in here. This is a single whaler bracket. Some strong backs, components, different kinds of strip systems, panel size and laying out your holes for ties to resist the concrete pressure. Again, you probably know this, but it's good to review these. And it's nice to review it with like a no pressure like timeline too, right? When you're on the job site, sometimes you got to go, and you just got to get it done. But sometimes nice to just look at something and just take a deep breath on your own time and understand why you're doing it too. It's kind of nice. Different panel systems, corner panels, like prefabricated panel systems with some T's and corners, specialty T panels. We're almost going to get to the self-test here, and I'll just show you like the way it's going to be. Spacer blocks, wall form details, just another style of corner lock system. Kickers, wedges. These are wedges. You know that for sure. Bracing. You know what braces are. Setting up the panels. Yeah, there's a job site. Not usually using lumber like that, but plywood. But sure. Um, prefabricated wall forms, gang forms. If you're not working on heavy construction or skyrise construction, you're probably not used to those. Special details, pilasters. Again, some terminology that you've probably built one or worked on one, but you just didn't know what to call it correctly. You didn't have that terminology yet. Or maybe you had your own word for it. That's fine. But this, we want to speak that Red Seal test language, so we got to know these words. That's a pilaster, sort of a bump out in the concrete. Just going to keep moving along here. I want to show you that self-test. Some blockouts, corbels, another terminology word. Structural bump out in the concrete. Gang forms, these are made of steel, so they have those eye hooks so that cranes can hook them out quickly, and you can build quickly and rapidly build skyscraper style heavy construction. Luma beams, just a lot of good information here. And this is just concrete. One aspect. This also touches on rigging systems, because we also just talked about that. So carpentry, we're not always dealing with this, but when we do, we need to know how to load these things, because these forming systems are thousands of pounds. So if we make a mistake, if we don't want to make a mistake, let's not do it. Lifting procedures. So it does touch on a little bit here. Anchoring. This is sort of like typical or classical heavy construction, like core construction. So they'll be building an elevator access or stair access all the way up from floor 0 all the way up to floor 50 in a repeatable, efficient, quickly reproducible manner. So knowing about those different kinds of form systems, gang forms, slip forms, core forming, different types, good to know it. And now we're entering into the self-test. So once we digest all that kind of information in a module, then it'll throw some self-test questions at you. So we'll either do that face-to-face, or you'll be assigned that as a little bit of a homework to do. And then if you didn't get one, then we'll just sort of go over that. I like the first thing, and then we'll just kind of go through these, like, oh, okay, what are the 3 requirements for a footing? Okay. But now, since we're on question 3, this is why I highlighted that. Go back to that thing that you kept in the back of your mind, that BCBC code, step footing thing. What was he talking about? What is the maximum step allowed for a step footing? So first, alarm bell. This could totally be something on the Red Seal. It's a little bit of a simple question here, but it could be. So the first alarm bell I see is, what is the maximum? When I see the word minimum or maximum, then who's to say? Well, the building code is the one to say. They'll tell you the minimums and maximums that you got to build something at. So I'm just going to pop back to first of all, the answer for the self-test. We're talking about this sort of step footing. The maximum vertical step is 600 millimeters. Okay, great. That's good that the module told you that. But could you look that up in the code book? Because when you sit down on the Red Seal exam, they're going to hand you, here's your booklet, and that's your building code. And you don't have this module, and you just couldn't possibly memorize all these code things. It's a giant book. So are you competent enough to flip through your book in a quick, efficient manner? Because you've only got 4 hours on that test. So are you able to do that in a quick manner and find this? And that's okay if you can't, because that's a big part of what this course is about. Being able to flip through your code book and fast. So let's keep this question and answer in our mind and see if we can find it in the code book, because that's really what we want to do. I think we still have a good 15 minutes left or so let's do that. All right, just give me a second here. I've got to just stop sharing, so you're going to see my face for a second. There we go. I just have it somewhere else here.
Oh, Andrew, so if we need to extend for like another 15 minutes, it's okay. I know that we lost a bit of time at the start.
Oh, sorry, say again, Rika.
If we need to extend for a bit more time, if we
Oh,
need to go over past 4:30, that's totally fine because I know that
yeah.
we lost time early
Yeah,
on.
people didn't come at the beginning. Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem. Okay, yes, hang on here. So I'm just gonna, okay. So you just give me a thumbs up if you see this BC Publications website. Okay, thank you very much. So all I do is I go into Google and I type in BC Publications, BC, which means British Columbia Building Code. So BC Publications, BC, and then you're going to be at the same screen I'm going to be at. Just the first click there. Should be, maybe second click. And then I'm clicking on British Columbia Building Code 2018. And boom, I'm in it. It's free, it's easy. And before I get too much farther into this, I want to address it and maybe warn you, get a paper copy. Get a paper copy. And I know it costs money, a couple $100 probably, but you are going to be, you can't access this with your phone. You can't access this with your computer on the Red Seal. They're just going to hand you the paper booklet and say, go to it. So getting comfortable with this online, it's not bad. This is new. This has not been out for years and years. This has only been out for a few years in this format, free online. So it's nice on the job site. I think it's great. Everyone's got their phone in the pocket and they can look up the building code on the job site on the spot without having to go into the trailer and pull out the big book, right? So it's fantastic. It's great. But focus that on the matter that we are trying to do our Red Seal exam. So you're just not going to be able to use it in this manner, but for sake of, this class and the online manner that it's in, we will do it just to show you what's happening and to help you navigate. But remember, I really recommend that you get used to the paper version because they're going to throw the booklet at you and you're going to be like, whoa, this looks different than online. So just give me 1 second here. I want to show you. Right. So before I get into that foundation British Columbia step footing question and interpretation, let's just quickly go into the preface. So consider this book a novel of law, unfortunately, but it's a novel. So there's a preface to it as well. You don't have to know every single page of this. You don't have to know every single detail. But if you want to know who's making this book and how long have they been making it and why, it helps to have it in the back of your mind. So that the way they're developing it, and there's just much too much for us to get into. But the MBC establishes requirements to address the following 5 objectives in the Division A. So basically, this is what the code's dealing with: safety, health, accessibility for people of all types, people with disabilities for sure, and then fire and structural protection, and then environmental protection and green building as well. So those are like the main things that the code we're trying to do. So, and safety is number 1. So, and really they're all linked together in that sort of way. It touches on the fire code. Don't need to get into that too much. I just wanted to show you all these different objectives that they have together and the way they relate to one another. There's one little spot. Okay, here's something that's important as well. So here's how they say chapter 1, page 3. Because it's such a big darn book, they say, okay, part 3, section 3.5, subsection 2, article, sentence, clause, subclause. It's a lot to take in. Don't worry about it. But just think it's a decimal system to organize the pages and the categories, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. And it's not like saying chapter 1, page 2. It doesn't work like that. You have to say part 3, section 5, subsection 2, look it up, and then you'll be able to flip to the right page. You can't just call out page 23. You kind of can, but not really. Otherwise, you're going to get mixed up. So realize that this is how they divide it up. If you wanted to pass somebody a note, you'd say 3.5.2.1, look that up, and you'd be, okay, I'm in the right spot. So that's how they're going to do that. I think that was it for that section. So I'm just going to go back. That's the preface. There's some good stuff in there too, but it's a lot for a short amount of time we have. So Division A, Division B, Division C. Division, just burn it in your brain. Division B is what we deal with 99% of the time as carpenters. Because that's dealing with the smaller style buildings, the wood frame construction, and buildings that are 3 stories or less. If it's bigger than that, we need to get more professionals involved, like engineers, architects, designers. So larger buildings, that'll be in different areas. So Part B, and I did jump the gun a little bit there, but Part B, Division B, and Part 9 is the most important one for the carpenters and the construction. You probably already know it if you've been into the BC Building Code a bit. That's great. If you haven't, then Division B, Part 9, that's your big ticket item. And if it's a building that's 4 stories or bigger, or it's a really big building, or the classification is, you know, a dangerous classification or an industrial one, then we would have some engineers, architects, and designers involved, as well as carpenters too. Okay. Just reading this chat here. Okay, that's good. Okay, so the part that's most important to carpenters, Part 9, housing and small building. Let's click on that. And now we're into the table of contents for this story, shall we say, the small buildings and carpentry related stuff. So now we got general definitions, materials, structural requirements, glass and windows, excavation, all sorts of stuff here. So this is where we enter into the hunt. So hunting through the building code, because there's a lot of pages, and that's where it's going to burn you on the test when you don't have enough time to hunt. So you're going to get skilled at hunting through the test and through the building code, and you're going to get fast at it. And that's what's going to save you time. So recall the question. If I just switch back to, do you see did I switch to that G2? No, it didn't change, did it? Okay, hang on. So remember back to this again, step footing. Okay, sorry, I don't know how to change that in a better manner than that. I'll get better. So the maximum vertical step and the minimum horizontal distance is 600 millimeters, BC building code. Okay, so now we're in the building code. I'm just going to pop you back in there. So now what are we going to do? We got to find that thing. So there's a couple ways. There's probably 3 different ways you can find it. But right away, you're in the table of contents here. And we want to find footings or step footings. We want to find, is there some similar words here that we can sort of hunt with? So we just got to start scanning and getting comfortable with it and used to it. So I'm seeing structural, glass, windows, stairs, fire protection, sound, excavation, damp proofing, drain. Hey, footings and foundation. Footings sounds like a thing. Okay. Now we're zooming in. Now they're going to tell us some serious data that we are going to take. Okay, foundations. So we're going to be looking for, what was it called again? Step footings. So we want to look for step footings. So we're just sort of scanning quickly right now. We want to look for the word footings required, step footings. There's some tables here, some minimum sizes, footing thicknesses. Hey, step footings. Okay, where step footings are used, the vertical rise between the horizontal portions shall not exceed 600 millimeters, and the horizontal distance shall not be less than 600 millimeters. Okay, we found it. That's where that module takes this from. They can't make that up. They can't make the code up. They will go to the code, and they did what we just did. They read it. Okay, it can only be this high up, and this far over. maximums. Otherwise, you're getting a little bit of a weak point in there. So we've just done the first way to hunt, which is table of contents, going from the front and finding the thing that we want. Great. There are a couple of different other ways to do it as well. And if you're already used to the code, if you're kind of sort of familiar with it, then that's great. That'll help. If not, then you're starting from scratch. I can't emphasize enough that you should get a paper copy, and we can even flip to it like on screen to screen and go over it like that, and maybe put some sticky notes in there, section for, a bright pink sticky note. This is stairs, this is framing, these are some guardrail heights, some mins and maxes. That would be really helpful. Unfortunately, you can't take that code, your personal code, into the test. They have to give you their own photocopy supply, but still, you'll be more comfortable with the paper. So I'm just going to go back to, so another way that we can do it is we have the internet. So there's a search option on the internet. Now that's not going to be available to you on the paper version, of course. But you could potentially search that. You could look up step footings and see what pops up. My internet's just, oh, there we go. And then here we have, we're talking about excavations, doesn't seem quite right. And then we're back to footings and foundations. So it's going to bump us back to where we were. So that's good. So being able to be comfortable doing it like that, that's good for job site use. Unfortunately, you're just not going to be able to use that on the test. And then you're going to also be able to use the index, which is, where is that thing? I'm so used to the paper copy myself. How to find that? Basically, there's a glossary at the end. And if I came to you with a problem like, okay, the Red Seal exam says, what's the maximum, rise or run for that step footing, and you weren't quite sure where to look it up through the table of contents, and you're not able to search it online like this, the time's ticking, you could say, okay, well, I can go to the index, which is at the back, and it's a list of all those keywords throughout the building code. And you could potentially look up, if it's a used word heavily, you could look up the word step footing, and it would jump you to where we just were. So that's another possible way to do it as well. Okay, so what else have we got here? Any questions so far? I guess I'm throwing a lot at you here, that's for sure. Everything okay?
Looks like everything's okay. Nelson just had a question earlier if the BC Building Code publication is available only to BC residents, but just for everyone's benefit, it's available online. I posted it in the chat if you guys want to access it, as well as the Carpenter NOC 2013, I think, PDF. So it's just right there in the chat box.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's available to anybody. Go ahead and take advantage of that. It wasn't always like that, so go ahead and use it. But just remember, if you're trying to challenge your Red Seal, just go get yourself, or find somebody who has a code book that you could at least borrow for a while, at the very least, and get used to the physical copy. So that would be very, very helpful. Okay. Okay, there's some other stuff I want to show you as well. Just let me get. Okay, so you see Carpenter program outline. Okay, Great. So this is an outline for when we deal with Carpenter apprenticeship program. So all the levels that level 1, 2, 3, 4, and the expectations for training, providing providers, instructors, and the expectations of apprentices and what they should come out with at the end of it. And they also do dabble with, they do quickly talk about challengers as well to the system. So basically the overall system. So some of it's for instructors, but some of it's really useful as well. And so we were talking about here about what should training providers do, what should employers do, what should apprentices do, and then here's the challenger category, which is you, which is great. Understand challenger pathway to certification or qualification, which is great. You're probably really wanting to know that or in the process of knowing that. That's good. Next category is understand the competencies that they must demonstrate in order to challenge the program. That's great. That's what we're going to do with that, with the NOA and going into all those subtasks together. Training topics and suggested time allocation. Understand relative weightings and various competencies of the occupation in which the assessment's based. So remember back to those pie charts, how much weight is in each section and how much we should really be spending our time on. Yep, you're going to have that. And then program content allows individuals, challengers, allows individuals to check program content areas against their own knowledge and performance expectations against their own skill level. That's a lot of words for, do I have any knowledge gaps? And if I do, can we fill them in quick so we can take this test? And then the last one I believe is for challengers, identifying the tools and the equipment a tradesperson is expected to be competent in. And we go back to that NOA booklet. We're going to talk about all those tools, and you probably know them, 99% of them, but those 1%, so we'll just talk about those too. But we'll kind of customize this course for ourselves. Yes, so now the different ways for you to achieve. I was talking to Rika as well today about Carpentry Foundation Program, which is good. So this is the different ways for you to attain that through the Carpentry Apprenticeship Program or for challenging it. And then this is the ITA's interpretation of the NOA, which is very similar to what you see in those blocks and subtasks. Now I'm going to jump you down to, because this is going to tell you about level 1, 2, 3, 4, all the good things you should know about and you're going to learn about. And this is basically fast forwarding last few years of your life because you got so much experience. You got some decent amount of experience. So you're going to challenge here at the end. And I just want to talk to you about some books that you may also want to have supplementary. Okay, so facilities, student facilities, tools and equipment. Okay, you've got your tools, that's for sure. Stationary. Rigging and hoisting stuff. Remember, we kind of talked about that briefly. Just another indicator that we might want to know what these things are if we don't know them. Okay, hand tools. I'm sure you've got most, if not all of these, or you've seen them. And if not, you can totally tell me and we can spend some time on that. Let's see here. Just want to show you. This is for the course, what they recommend. Okay. So this is what they're recommending for apprenticeship program 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're recommending Carpentry 3rd edition by Floyd Vogt and Michael Null. So this book, I would recommend you get this book. This is a really important one. As you can see, it's part of apprenticeship level 1, 2, 3, 4. So we reference it a lot. I would recommend that, or maybe getting an e-version of it, and we can go over that too. If you're going to take this course, we can dive into that one a little bit as well. British Columbia Building Code. As you can see, we need that for our level 1, 2, 3, 4. There's just no way to get around that. Again, paper copy. And then we have some recommended resources: concrete formwork, principle and practices, and understanding construction drawings. I would, if you're really dead serious about it, I would probably get this book or an e-version of it. And I know it's backwards because it's mirror image, but this is the principles. I'm going to highlight that. The principles and practices of commercial concrete. Because if you're not in that trade, the things done in that industry are just like alien to a lot of the other industries in carpentry. So that one's really going to help you look at how are they making dams, and how are they making bridges, and how are they making skyscrapers. And it's just another world of heavy construction, really. So if you're not exposed to that, that's going to be a weakness. So we really want to get a book like that, go through it. It's not 100% required, but if that's a weak spot, I would really recommend it. Another one that we are using now for the apprenticeship program is this. It's a little bit of a lighter book, but Understanding Construction Drawings. This is a really, really helpful one if you're a little bit weak on plan reading, blueprint reading, drawing, all the specs and where to flip and that kind of stuff, which pages have the right information. You could definitely, I would definitely go through that book and do some of those. It's a workbook too. It's got lots of questions and answers, and we could go over that one too. Perfect. Oh yeah, there we go. You got some on the chat. Awesome. I think, okay, and here's some other suggested ones. That I think we're okay with the Understanding Construction Drawings. That's a useful aid. You don't need that one. The principles and practices, we definitely, that's, if you're weak in that area or you haven't worked in that area, definitely get that book. Building Trades Dictionary, that's a maybe. Practical Problems in Mathematics for Carpenters, that's a maybe. If you're maybe a little bit weaker in mathematics, it helps to break it down piece by piece and show you visually. PWF, nah. Formwork for Concrete, you could do that. That would maybe help you if you're weak in the concrete section. Concrete Technology, Hand Woodworking Tools. Again, if you're working in concrete, you're not working in old school hand woodworking tools. So you might be totally oblivious to a lot of the tools that are in the woodworking shop. So that might be a helpful one. I think I have it right here, actually. It's an older book, but it's got some really nice pictures and diagrams. A little bit older looking, but those tools don't change. Well, they get better, but those original tools don't change too much. Control of concrete mixtures. This is definitely interesting, but you can garner that information out of other textbooks. Understanding wood, that's useful. Wood frame house construction. This is sort of like a really short, concise building code combined with useful practices. That's a good one too. National Building Code. You're going to have your BC, so yeah, you're going to have that for sure. This is a good one too. The Hoisting and Rigging Safety Manual. It's dry. It's not the funnest thing in the world, but it's definitely going to be on the Red Seal exam for safety, rigging, operations, and that kind of stuff too. So we want to have a look at that as well. And I believe that is it. So I've thrown a lot at you there. I've thrown the this Get Ready booklet, which I'll just summarize here. So this Get Ready booklet is an excellent place to start. So start here, dive into it, digest it. That's great. Then you'll realize that, okay, it's all based off of this, the NOA, Carpenter analysis. So that's how they build this course or this Red Seal exam. And then realize that, okay, BC is its own thing. It's different than Ontario and Nova Scotia. So that's this pie chart. That's how they weight this. Okay. And then once you've got that under control and you're taking this course with me, Then we will be doing these modules together, these apprenticeship modules that go over information. We'll go over some of those books that I've talked about, and we'll definitely make sure we get our BC building code down perfectly so that we can, it's going to be about 25% of your questions could potentially be British Columbia building code questions. So think of it like that. If you're able to look up in your code those questions, they're in there. Those answers are free in there for you. So if you get comfortable enough with that, you've got 25 out of 100 questions just sitting there in the book for you to pull out of. And then all you've got to do is just get a few more and you've passed your course, or you've passed your Red Seal exam. So a really big component is that building code. So that is about wrapping it up for my information. If anyone has any questions, oops, just gonna stop sharing. There we go. Is my face back again now? There we go. If anyone had any questions, you can go right ahead, or yeah.
Right. Thanks so much for that, Andrew. Very substantial. I mean, I'm not in the industry, but what this demo class teaches me is that knowledge is one thing, but to be able to successfully pull that knowledge during the 4-hour exam, you have limited time, you have resources, but to be able to like go through it, that's another thing to learn. So
Yes,
yeah, that's what the Red Seal exam prep course is all about.
for sure. Yeah.
So, well, so for attendees, if you have any questions, I can give you mic access. Just click the raise hand function, or, oh, I'm not even sure if you have, oh, that's for webinars. But yeah, like, let me know here in the chat box if you want me to give you mic access. But I guess while you're thinking about your question, I can tell you a bit more about Ashton College. So Ashton College has 9 Red Seal exam prep trades. So one of them is Carpenter. And just so you know, if you guys are interested as well in learning just about BC building code, if that is one of your weak spots, we have a whole course dedicated to that. I'm going to put some links in the chat box while you guys are trying to figure out your questions. So yeah, we have BC Building Code 2018. We actually had an info session for that recently with Andrew as well.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to go to the Red Seal. So everyone, I assume here is for the Red Seal Carpenter. So I'm just going to pull that up. So the next upcoming session is, oh, just right around the corner, May 11th. So here's the link if you guys want to go ahead and register. You can call us anytime, 604. Sorry, actually, I just need to pull up the actual phone number for accurate. So you can email us at ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca. You can also give us a call during business hours. We're Pacific time. We're headquartered in Vancouver, BC. So Mondays to Fridays, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time. You can give us a call at 604-891-1256. Putting that in there as well. Oops, looks like I did not give you guys the correct email. ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca. So yeah, looks like, oh, thank you, Nelson. Thank you to Nelson Romeo. I think George got disconnected quite briefly earlier on, but if you want, this is being recorded right now. We will send a thank you email to everyone with a copy of this demo class, so you can like access everything, all the valuable information that Andrew has told us in this demo session. You can access that in the recording. All the PDFs and all the reference materials is going to be in that recording as well. So just watch out for the thank you email. So
Great.
yeah, looks like no one has any question. Anything else you'd like to add, Andrew?
I think Nelson just said, are there any texts that we need to purchase through Ashton College? I don't think we buy anything through Ashton, but that's probably your jurisdiction.
Yeah, there are no required materials to purchase before you take the actual exam prep. But for anything else that you, if you're kind of like hesitant about that, if you want to find other anything else that might help you during the exam prep course, email ceinfo@ashtoncollege.ca, and our admissions officers will be able to help you out with that. All right. All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Nelson. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess that's about it. Anything else you'd like to add, Andrew?
That's about it. Just I appreciate a couple that were here and watching that, and it's a really good thing if you want to get your red seal. I think it's a really good. I don't know your ages. I can't see your faces, but it's a great stepping stone or starting stone depending where you're at. And I think I wish you well, and you're going to do well.